In this exercise, we're going to take your skills out for a bit of a spin. And what we're going to do is take an image and give it a little bit of a jazz up. And at the same time, let's take a look at creating a couple of symbols and using them. And along the way, I'm going to show you a couple of new things that you can do with symbols. So to get yourself started, open up the statestreet.png file that's located in your exercise folder. And when it opens, you'll see that it's an image of a coffee cup on a little tray and a little ID of the cafe. And what we want to do is give this image a little bit of jazz. So let's add the jazz. Click once on the image, and once the image is selected, let's go to the Filters menu in the Property Inspector. And what we're going to choose is the Bevel and Emboss. So we're going to choose an inner bevel for this image. And when you choose the inner bevel, it kind of looks like a button. It's just not quite the effect we want. So the first thing we want to do is just get rid of this little edge on here. That's way too big. So we'll make that 3 pixels. And I'm just going to open it up again. Just click the eye. And now that it looks a little bit more manageable, let's give it a look of a frame, and that would be the ring effect. And you can see once you accept it, it looks like just a little bit of a nice rounded frame around the image. Now let's have the image stand out a little bit from the background. So again, select the image, and this time the filter that we're going to add is a drop shadow. And the only thing we're going to do here is just make the shadow a little bit bigger. So we'll make that a 6. And then hit the return or enter key to accept the change, and we're done. And now we've got a nicely beveled image, and if you want to bring the edge out a bit, you can select it and using the left or the right arrow key, just pull it out so you can see the bevel on the left edge. So now that we've got that done, we can now turn our attention to the State Street Cafe button bar. Now, one of the things you might want to do to get the button bar lined up is to go to the rulers. And to do that, you go to the View menu, Rulers, and that will turn on the rulers. And all you need to do is just put the cursor on the ruler, the vertical ruler, and just drag it out and bump it up against the edge of the S. We're sort of going to identify a spot where we want the button bar to go. Now to create the button bar, we only really need to create one button. So we're just going to select the rectangle tool and just draw out a rectangle. Doesn't matter the size and the color right now. And the size that we're going to use is 145 pixels wide. So you come to the Properties panel and just type in 145 for the width. Make sure that you don't have the proportion selected. And we're going to change the height to 20 pixels. And that brings it to the size we want. And we'll just change the fill color to white. And that gives us a white box. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have some fun with this. The first thing we want to do is just change this to a different color. And if you come to the Styles panel, which is right here, FX, or you can go to the window, Styles, right there, this will open the Styles panel. Now, what we're going to work with is not the current document. We're going to pop it down and we're going to look for some color styles. Now, these are color and type and all kinds of styles that you can apply to selections and objects. We're going to go to the plastic styles, and you'll see that a whole bunch of little buttons or styles opens up. If you click one, notice it's immediately applied to your selection, so it's kind of cool. Now, the one we want is going to look a little bit more like the coffee foam in the cup, and that's this one right here, Plastic 095. Select it. And when you select it, you'll notice that it is now the style for the button. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to select the button or the bar that we've created, and you're going to right click on it or control click if you've got a Mac, and you're going to convert this to a symbol, and we're going to turn it into a button. And what we'll do is we'll name it nav underscore BTN so we know that it's a button. Click OK. And you can see the slice there. It's now a button. And we really don't need the slice guide here, so we can turn that off. You come over to the Tools panel and right here, hide the slices and hotspots button. That turns it off. Now, if you want, you can get rid of the guide. We really don't need it anymore. We'll just move that there. And now that this is a button, let's double click it. And what you're going to do next is add some text to it because nobody knows what it is right now. So we're going to have 3 of these and we're going to name them coffee, locations, and desserts. So we'll just do coffee. And once you've input it, choose the Georgia Bold font, change it to a white, or let's go with black. And it now contrasts nicely up against the button bar. And what we want to do now is sort of get it to align with the button bar. So you select the text and the button, come to your alignment panel, which is right here. And let's just align it on the center of the button and align it to the vertical center so it comes down. And we've got this thing set quite nicely. Now we're going to need an overstate of this button. So we select the button. We come back to page 1. We select the button, double click it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the state and we're going to create an overstate. So we just select over and we just say, look, copy the up graphic. And you notice that as we did earlier, the up graphic comes in. Now we're going to change the state on this. So when we roll over it, this text, first off, is going to change color. So we just select the text and we change the color from black to, let's choose a light gray. Say CC, CC, CC. And then back to the selection tool, click on the graphic. And you notice you got the gradient here. Now we're going to do something a little bit different with the gradient. What we're going to do is we're going to come over to the properties panel. We're going to open up the fill. And instead of changing these colors, we're just going to flip the order of them. This color that we see on the left, move it over to the right. Basically, flip the gradient. Now, instead of moving all the crayons around, all you got to do is just click this little reverse gradients button. You can see the tooltip. Click it, and we've now got a reverse gradient. And we can come back to page 1, and there's our little button. And if you click preview, you can see that you've got this really neat little rollover. Okay, let's go back to original. Now, what we're going to do next is create the next 2 buttons. And you can do that just by simply clicking on the button, selecting it, holding down the Option or the Alt key, click hold down the Shift key, and just drag. And look for the smart guides to tell you that you're butted up against the first one. Let go. And sometimes it moves, so you can just use the arrow keys to move it into position. And just repeat the step for the 3rd button. Now, obviously, having 3 coffee buttons here is kind of dumb. Now, here's where it gets kind of neat. If you open the button, you can change the text. Or, if you come back to page 1 and select the button, you can see that the word text here has the word coffee in it. Just change the text to desserts. You notice it changes. And we do the same thing over here with coffee on the last one, and we'll change the text to locations. And now that we've got the 3 buttons done, and just make sure you got the spacing here. I got a little bit of a spacing issue here, so I'm just going to take this, use the arrow key. I'm going to move it to the left. Just move it over 1 pixel. It should do. Yeah, that's fine. And again, you want to test your buttons. You just go to the preview, select the preview button, roll over. There's the coffee button. There's the desserts button. There's the locations button. So there you go. There's using a number of the skills that you've picked up to this point. We've applied a filter to an image. We've created a graphic and applied a style to it. And if you remember, the styles panel is right here. And you can use it to apply styles to various objects. We created a button, and the button is in the document library. So there it is there. We can reuse it if we need to. And we also used the property inspector to actually change the text that is inside of a button rather than opening the button, selecting the text, and retyping it. So there you go. There's creating a simple button bar, and you did it in a very short order.